The voice reaches Xavier before his hand touches the door. He is 3 steps from the gymnasium entrance. Dress blues pressed sharp, 4 rows of medals across his chest, cap tucked under his left arm. He came straight from the base ceremony. He didn't stop to change. He hadn't thought he would need to. The voice pushes through the concrete wall like it doesn't need permission. I do not owe your family anything. You don't question how I run my program. Not you, not your father, not whatever veteran card your household thinks gives you standing in my gym. This is my floor. You fall in line, or you walk. Xavier stops mid-step. His left foot is still in the air. Hi, viewers. Have you ever been on your way to support your child, and the very first thing you heard stopped you completely cold? Drop a yes in the comments right now, because what Xavier Osei is about to walk into will hit different than anything you have heard today. He sets his foot down. 1 breath. Through the nose. The hallway is empty. The fluorescent light above him flickers once. His hand finds the door. He pushes it open. The gymnasium stretches out wide and bright. Afternoon light cuts through the high windows in long, flat strips across the hardwood. 31 boys, some seated on the floor, some pressed against the sideline bleachers, have gone the kind of quiet you only hear when every person in a room knows something is wrong. Every phone is already up. Every camera is already rolling. Coach Garrett Howell stands at the scorer's table, 1 arm out, 1 finger pointing. At Tariq Osei stands 4 feet away, with his hands loose at his sides and his chin level. He is not shaking. He is not looking at the floor. He is looking directly at Howell with the still, measured expression of someone who has already made a decision and is simply waiting for the world to catch up to it. That look, right there, that is what stops Xavier harder than the voice did. 16-year-olds do not look like that by accident. That kind of stillness takes time to build. It takes practice. It takes enduring something, over and over, until the shock of it wears all the way down, and what is left underneath is not fear, it is resolve. And seeing it on his son's face, that specific look, lands somewhere in Xavier's chest that 14 years of military training did not prepare him for. Howell's eyes cut to the door. His body doesn't flinch. It recalculates. Practice is closed. Xavier keeps his voice flat. I'm his father. I'm aware. Howell's tone drops half a register. Smooth, rehearsed, even. You're welcome to wait in the hallway. I'll wait here. The gym holds its breath. A basketball near the free throw line rolls 2 inches in the silence and stops against the floor seam. 3 seconds. Then Howell smiles. Slow, settled. The smile of a man who has spent 12 years in this gymnasium watching every parent who ever tried to push back eventually step back. Security's already been called. He turns away from Xavier like the matter is handled. We're going from the top. 2 officers appear in under 4 minutes. Xavier walks out. No argument. No raised voice. No scene. Just a black man in full dress blues walking back through the hallway he already walked down, past the water fountain, past the flickering light, through the main entrance, out into the Thursday afternoon sun. The gym door swings shut behind him. In the upper bleachers, 3rd row from the top, a woman sits with a legal pad open across her lap. She has been there since 3:43. She watched the entire thing, every word, every second. She does not stand up. She does not follow Xavier outside. She picks up her pen, writes something down, closes the folder, picks up her phone. Who is she? And why was she already in that gym 11 minutes before Xavier arrived? Before this story goes any further, you need to know who Xavier Osei actually is. Not the rank. Not the medals. Not the commendation certificate filed somewhere at Camp Lejeune. The man. Xavier joined the Marine Corps at 23. 2 years after his father passed, and 6 months after the steel plant in his hometown laid off 300 people on a single afternoon. He didn't join because he was out of options. He joined because the Corps matched the way his mind worked. Precise, sequential, no wasted motion, no tolerance for anything left unaddressed. He made gunnery sergeant in 11 years, 2 combat deployments, 4 commendations. He was the kind of man his unit depended on, not because he was the loudest in the room, but because he was always the most prepared. He studied everything. He documented everything. He never walked into a situation without knowing the exit. He came home to Pittsburgh for the last time with a purple heart, a locked jaw, and a mortgage that needed catching up. Nadine was already sick by then. She had not told him how sick. She managed it the way she managed most things, completely, quietly, without putting her weight on anyone else, until there was no other choice. By the time Xavier got home for good, the diagnosis had a name and a number. Ovarian cancer, stage 3, caught late. Tariq was 13. Xavier did not fall apart. He did not know how. He cooked. He drove. He sat in hospital chairs reading field manuals because his hands needed something to do. He handled every decision that needed handling. When Nadine died, he made sure the service was exactly what she would have wanted. No excess, no performance, just the right people saying the right things for the right amount of time. Then he came home to a 2-bedroom apartment on Carver Street and figured out how to be the only parent left. The apartment is clean, organized, every surface serves a purpose. There are exactly 2 things on the walls: a photo of Xavier and Tariq at Tariq's first varsity game, in the kitchen, and nothing else. Xavier does not decorate. He never has. Tariq's room is different. On Tariq's nightstand, sitting inside a small gold frame, there is a photograph. 6 women in evening wear, standing in a row at some kind of formal event. Some of them are laughing. Some of them look directly at the camera, with the specific confidence of women who have worked too hard, for too long, to need anyone's approval. Nadine is the third from the left. Tariq placed the photo there himself, 2 weeks after the funeral. Xavier found it one morning when he came in to open the blinds and has not moved it since. He has looked at that photograph nearly every morning for 3 years. He has looked at Nadine's face. That is enough. That has always been enough. He has never studied the 5 women standing beside her. Never asked Tariq where the photo came from. Probably should have. Tariq, for his part, is not the kind of child who fills silence, because silence is uncomfortable. He does not perform happiness. He does not explain his grief. He handles it the same way he handles the point guard position, reading the floor, making adjustments, giving nothing away until the exact moment it counts. His teachers describe him as self-possessed. His teammates call him quiet. Howell, until recently, called him difficult to manage. What Howell got wrong about Tariq, what Howell fundamentally miscalculated, is that quiet is not passive. It never has been. Tariq watches. He catalogs. He remembers. He learned all of that from his mother. He got the patience from his father. On Tariq's nightstand, the gold frame catches the east-facing morning light every day without fail. 5 women standing in that photo beside Nadine. Who are they? 3 days before Thursday, Tariq sits at the kitchen table and does not eat his eggs. That part is not unusual. The phone is. It sits face down on the table next to his glass of juice. Tariq never puts his phone face down. He keeps it face up the same way he keeps his head up on the court, because he reads the room at all times, and he does not want to miss a single thing. Face down means he doesn't want Xavier to see what's on the screen. Xavier pours his coffee. He doesn't mention the phone. He learned early that asking Tariq direct questions before the boy is ready produces nothing except the careful, quiet closing of a door. So he says nothing. He sets 2 slices of toast on the table and sits down. "You sleep?" Xavier asks. Enough. Tariq picks up the toast. Team looking good for Friday? A pause. Half a beat too long. Yeah. Xavier wraps both hands around his mug and looks past Tariq's shoulder at the east-facing window. The morning light comes in slow and gold. The building across the street has had a broken gutter since October, a slow, steady drip that Xavier has counted on mornings like this without realizing he's doing it. Coach say anything about the schedule change? Tariq sets the toast down. He looks at the table for a moment. Then he looks up. Dad. Yeah. The memorial ceremony on Thursday. At the base. What time does it usually end? Xavier looks at him. Around 3:15, maybe 3:30. And practice starts at 4. Right. Tariq picks up his phone, still face down. He taps it twice against the table. Slow, one finger. Then he slides it back. Can you be there? Xavier thinks he means the ceremony. I'll be there the whole time. I'm one of the speakers. No. Tariq shakes his head. Something moves across his face. Not exactly stress, not exactly calculation. Something that sits between the two. I mean practice. Can you be there? At your practice? Yeah. Xavier looks at his son for a long moment. Tariq's face has already gone neutral again. The door is open, but only an inch. I can head over after the ceremony. Tariq nods once, picks up his toast. Here is the thing Xavier does not catch in that moment. Because parents sometimes hear what they expect to hear. They listen for the shape of the sentence instead of the exact words inside it. Tariq did not say after. He said there. He didn't say, stop by when you get a chance, or come see us practice, or I want you to meet someone. He said, can you be there? And before he asked about the end time of the ceremony. He had already done the math before Xavier sat down. He knew exactly how long the drive took. He knew what time practice started. He knew what he was asking for, and how much time Xavier would need to make it happen. Tariq Osei had been planning this for longer than one Monday morning. The phone stays face down for the rest of breakfast. Xavier finishes his coffee, rinses the mug, grabs his jacket from the hook near the door. He pauses at the hallway entrance. You need anything before Friday? Tariq shakes his head. Xavier leaves. In the kitchen, Tariq waits. He counts to 30, slow. The way his father once taught him to count when he needs to confirm a space is clear. At 30, the elevator doors close somewhere down the hall. He picks up the phone, turns it face up. The screen shows a voice memo application. A recording timer blinks steadily at the top of the display. It is still running. Tariq stares at it for a moment. Then he closes the app, finishes his toast, puts the plate in the sink. He doesn't look nervous. He looks like someone who has been carrying something heavy for a long time, someone who has finally decided exactly where to set it down, and just needs one person standing beside him when he does. Thursday comes in cold and gray. Xavier is at the base by 8. By 10, he is in dress blues pressed flat enough that every crease holds a clean line. By 11:30, he is seated in the front row of the memorial pavilion, listening to a chaplain read the name of a man Xavier served alongside for 6 years across 2 deployments. These ceremonies carry their own weight, slow and deliberate, full of silences that mean more than the words placed around them. Xavier has attended 14 of them. He has spoken at 6. He knows where his voice wants to flatten and where it will hold, and he prepares for both without making it a production. He speaks at 2:45. He finishes at 2:51. He is walking to his car when the phone buzzes. He doesn't slow down. He pulls it from his jacket pocket and reads the screen without breaking stride. One message, Tariq. He's doing it again. 3 words. Xavier reads them twice. His stride doesn't change. His face doesn't change. He gets in the car. He doesn't call back. He doesn't reply. He puts the phone face up on the passenger seat, starts the engine, and pulls out of the base lot at 3:02 p.m. The drive from the base to Creekfield High School takes 22 minutes on a regular Thursday afternoon. Xavier makes it in 17. He knows every traffic light on the route, every merge where a gap opens early, every shortcut through the Millbrook district where the main road slows and the side streets don't. He has made this drive in every kind of weather across 3 school years, but he has never made it with those 3 words on the seat beside him. Never with that specific weight sitting on that specific word, again. He doesn't know exactly what again covers. He knows enough. He pulls into the Creekfield visitor lot at 3:19. 6 vehicles total. 3 he recognizes from game nights. 1 district transport van, and 1 he has never seen here before. A black SUV. Pennsylvania government plates. Rear windows tinted dark. It is parked at the far end of the lot at an angle that does not match the other cars, not parallel to the curb, not following the painted lines. It is positioned so that whoever sits behind the wheel has an unobstructed, direct view of the school's main entrance. Whoever parked that vehicle wanted to watch the door. Xavier looks at it for 2 seconds, files it away, walks toward the building. Inside, the school holds the specific quiet that settles after the final bell, a stillness that feels like something just ended rather than something is about to start. Lockers stand half open. A custodian pushes a mop down the far end of the main hall without looking up. A paper homecoming banner still hangs from the ceiling near the stairwell, edges curling from dry heat. Xavier passes all of it, down the main corridor. Left at the second intersection, past the trophy case with its 4 gold championship plaques and the framed photo of Howell shaking hands with the district superintendent, past the water fountain. The gymnasium sits at the end of the hall. Sneakers. The low echo of a ball off hardwood. The muffled, overlapping sounds of a practice already running. A Thursday afternoon at a high school gym, sounding exactly the way it should sound. Then he hears the other thing. The voice. The 3 words on the seat of his car collapse into a single moment. The moment Xavier Osei's left foot lifts off the floor and holds in the air, 3 steps from the gymnasium door, while that voice moves clean through the wall. Out in the visitor lot, the black SUV sits with its engine off. Nobody gets out. Inside the gymnasium, the confrontation doesn't start loud. That is the point. The team is still in warm-ups, 2 layup lines running, sneakers cutting left and right across the hardwood, when Howell blows his whistle once and the whole line stops. He is standing at half court with a clipboard, and he doesn't say anything for a full 10 seconds. He just looks at the team. Then he looks at one person on it. Osei. Tariq steps out of the line. Sir. Weight room. Yesterday. Walk me through what you said to Donnell. Tariq's voice stays even. I corrected a form issue on the bar. The grip was wrong. It was going to cause an injury. You corrected. Howell says it slowly, the way a person says a word they find offensive. You. 16. Second varsity season. You corrected something in my program. The grip was. I'm not talking about the grip. 1 step forward. No rush. The room is already watching, and Howell is already aware of it. He is not unaware of the room. He is using it. I'm talking about your pattern. The pattern of thinking your read matters more than my 12 years of it. The pattern of walking through this gym like this program owes your household something it doesn't owe anyone else's. He lets that sit in the room. Nobody bounces a ball. Nobody shifts their weight. Then, one by one, from the sideline, from the bleachers, phones come up. Screens turn on. Cameras open without a single word being said about it. I do not owe your family anything. Howell's voice does not rise. That is how it works. The control is in keeping it level. You don't question how I run this program. Not you. Not your father. Not whatever veteran card your household thinks gives you standing in my gym. He takes 1 step closer. This is my floor. You fall in line, or you walk. Tariq stands with his hands at his sides and his chin exactly where it has been since Howell called his name. He does not respond. He has been inside this speech for 6 months. Different words on different days, but the same frame, the same pressure, the same careful calculation of how much weight a person can carry before they either collapse or explode, either one of which hands Howell exactly what he needs. Tariq is not going to give him either. His practice bag sits 4 feet to his left, positioned at the edge of the free throw lane. He placed it there when he walked in, 15 minutes before anyone else arrived. He turned the outer mesh pocket toward the scorer's table before he set it down. Through the fabric, barely visible unless you knew to look, a small red indicator light blinks at a slow, steady rhythm. On, off, on, off. The recording started at 3:38. Then the gym door opens. Every head in the room turns. Xavier Osei steps through the entrance in full dress blues, 4 rows of medals, cap under his left arm, posture built over 14 years into something that doesn't shift, regardless of the room. 31 phones are already in the air. All 31 cameras shift direction in the same second. Howell does not step back. He adjusts. Practice is closed. Xavier's voice is quiet. I'm his father. I'm aware. You're welcome to wait in the hallway. I'll wait here. The ventilation unit above the bleachers becomes the loudest thing in the building. 4 seconds. Then Howell smiles. That particular smile. The one built over 12 years of understanding exactly how much he can do before anyone with power says anything about it. Security's on the way. He turns back to his team. We go from the top when they get here. 2 officers. 4 minutes. Xavier walks out with the same stride he walked in with. Measured, unhurried, giving Howell nothing he can point to afterward. The gym door closes. Howell drops a ball off the hardwood, 1 sharp bounce, and says, "Full court press, now." 30 boys start moving. Tariq picks up his bag by the strap and falls into the drill line. He doesn't check the pocket. He already knows the light is still on. He checked the battery at 7 that morning and set the recording without a time limit. He has done this 11 times across the last 6 months, in this gym and outside it. He has learned what goes on record and what disappears into a room with no witnesses. His face gives nothing. In the upper bleachers, the woman with the legal pad is already standing. She has been in this gym for 41 minutes. She has confirmed 3 specific behavioral patterns she needed to confirm in person. She has 9 pages of notes written in the small, compressed handwriting she developed during 6 years of federal grant compliance work. She has cross-referenced 2 dates from parent complaints filed in September and October against what she watched happen on this floor today. She pulls out her phone, dials. 2 rings. "It happened today," she says, quiet and certain. "Get the attorney." She ends the call, closes the folder, walks down the bleacher steps, 1 row at a time, each footstep placed deliberate on the aluminum. At the bottom, she stops. She looks through the small wire-reinforced window in the gym door into the corridor beyond it. Xavier Osei is standing at the far end of the hall, back against the wall, 1 hand on his phone. Completely still, the way a man stands when he has already made his decision and is simply waiting for the right moment to move on it. She watches him for 3 full seconds. Then she turns. She pushes through the far exit and walks toward the parking lot. She has his name. She will have his attorney's number by morning. She has 16 months of case documentation that was missing 1 critical piece. 1 family who had been inside it, who documented while they endured, who built evidence the way the people who hurt them never thought they would. She thinks she just found them. She has no idea she already knows this family. Not yet. The parking space is empty. Xavier stands at the edge of the marked visitor spot, 4 rows out from the main entrance, and looks at the gap where his car used to be. The visitor sign is still there, mounted, readable, no ambiguity in what it says. He looks at the yellow fire lane curb, measures the distance with his eyes. 5 feet, maybe 6, between where his rear bumper would have sat and where that yellow line starts. That is not a fire lane violation, not even close. The lot attendant is near his booth with a radio in his hand, looking at everything except Xavier. The blue Chevy, Xavier says, called in for blocking a fire access lane. The man keeps his eyes on the radio. Xavier looks at the visitor sign, at the curb, at the 5 feet of concrete between them. He takes out his phone. The main entrance door opens behind him. Mr. Osei. He turns. She walks toward him with the directness of someone who does not use unnecessary steps. Legal pad tucked under her left arm. Same gray coat. A card already held out in her right hand before she reaches him. Paige Whitfield, CEO, Vector Reach. We fund this program. She extends her hand. Xavier takes it. Their fingers make brief contact during the exchange. She presses the card into his palm before she lets go. Call your attorney before you call the tow company, she says. Call the tow company before you call the district. Order matters here. Xavier looks at the card, then at her. Why? Because the call that had your car removed came from inside that building. That makes it a decision, not a policy. Decisions have authors. She holds his gaze without pressure. I have been watching this program for 16 months. Today was my 3rd unannounced observation visit. She does not offer anything beyond that. Xavier looks at the card one more time, slides it into his breast pocket. Thank you, he says. She gives one short nod, turns, walks to a gray sedan parked 2 rows over, and gets in without looking back. Xavier dials Broderick Hale. 2nd ring. Talk to me, Broderick says. Xavier gives him everything in sequence. The text, the drive, the gym, Howell's speech, the ejection, the towed car. Fact followed by fact. No drama, no commentary. The same way he has given every report worth giving for 14 years. Broderick stays quiet for 6 full seconds after Xavier stops. The woman in the parking lot, he says. She gave you a card. Yes. What name? Paige Whitfield. Silence. Not a thinking silence. A deciding one. The kind where a person already has the answer and is choosing how much of it to hand over. Broderick. I know exactly who that is. I figured as much, Xavier says. How do you know Paige Whitfield? A pause. Shorter this time. She has been running a federal pattern of conduct case for 16 months, Broderick says. Multiple families, 3 schools, 2 districts. She needs one piece to take it to the federal education office, documented proof that the targeting was deliberate, not administrative failure. Not a bad personality. Deliberate selection of households that Howell calculated would absorb it without reporting. Xavier says nothing. I have had a file on this case for 2 months, Broderick continues. I did not know this family was inside it. I did not know Tariq was involved. How close is she to finishing it? A pause. 1 beat too long. Xavier. Broderick's voice shifts. Not louder, just denser. The documentation that Tariq has been building. Xavier goes completely still in the empty parking space. No. What documentation? Broderick does not answer that directly. Call me from somewhere private in 30 minutes, he says. Don't contact the school. Don't contact the district. Don't speak to anyone until then. The call ends. Xavier stands in his dress blues in the afternoon light, in the space where his car used to be, holding the phone against his palm. He thinks about the voice memo app on Tariq's phone, face down on a Monday breakfast table. He thinks about that practice bag placed 4 feet left of the free throw line, positioned, not dropped. He thinks about the eyes, that particular settled look, the decision already made before the door even opened. 6 months. 6 months of breakfasts. 6 months of short answers and face-down phones and dinners where his son looked past the kitchen window at something Xavier could not see. 6 months of Tariq carrying something alone, carrying it with enough care and enough precision to build it into something a federal case could use. How long has that boy been protecting his father? And what else has he been carrying that Xavier hasn't yet put a name to? Tariq is at the kitchen table when Xavier gets home. No headphones, no phone in sight. Just both hands flat on the surface and his eyes on the door, like he already knew what time his father would walk through it. Xavier hangs his jacket, sits down across from his son. Neither of them speaks for a moment. "How long?" Xavier says. Tariq doesn't ask what he means. 6 months. Xavier takes that number in without letting it show on his face. 6 months of his son walking through the doors of that gym, absorbing what Howell was doing, day after day, week after week, and choosing to carry it home in silence. 6 months of careful, steady documentation while Xavier was 3 miles away at the base, believing his son was having a hard season. "Show me," Xavier says. Tariq opens the voice memo folder on his phone. It is labeled Practice. 23 files. The shortest is 4 minutes and 11 seconds. The longest runs 1 hour and 42 minutes. 23 sessions. He plugs in a small speaker and plays one from 8 weeks ago, a Wednesday practice. The first 90 seconds are routine. Sneakers on hardwood, a ball bouncing, Howell's whistle. Then Howell's voice settles into that particular register Xavier heard through the gym wall today. Low, measured, unhurried. This time it is aimed at Kwame Okafor over a missed defensive assignment. The words are placed carefully, each one just neutral enough to defend in isolation, deliberate enough to sting in sequence. Taken across 23 recordings, across 6 months, the pattern is the kind of thing that no one with working eyes could mistake for an accident. Xavier listens to the full clip without moving. "There's one more," Tariq says. He opens a subfolder, not labeled Practice, labeled with a single date, 6 weeks ago. Xavier presses play. Howell's voice on this recording is different, relaxed, off guard, the voice of a man completely certain he is alone and unheard. He is on a call. He is talking about a recruiting inquiry from a D1 program. Xavier locks the program name away the second he hears it. "Yeah, I've seen him play," Howell says. "Talented kid. But there are some fit issues, character stuff. You know how some of these kids are. A lot of ability, coachability isn't always there." A pause. "I'd look at other options in the class." The recording ends. The kitchen is quiet. "That scout was calling about you," Xavier says. "Yes." "Howell told him you had character problems." "Yes." "How did you record a private phone call?" "His office shares a vent with the equipment room," Tariq says. "I went in for tape. I heard his voice through the wall. I went back for my phone." Xavier looks at his son for a long moment. "You didn't bring this to me," he says. "No, because you were protecting me." Tariq looks at the table. When he looks back up, his voice is steady and direct and without apology. "You would have gone in without enough. I needed you to go in with everything." The kitchen holds still for a moment. Then Tariq says, "Mom would have done the same thing." That sentence lands without drama, without warning, in exactly the place it is supposed to go. Xavier gets up, goes to the window, stands there for a while, looking at the building across the street, at the broken gutter that has been dripping since October. At 9:14 that evening, his phone rings. He picks up without checking the screen. He already knows. "I thought you'd call tomorrow," he says. "I wasn't sure you'd pick up tomorrow," Paige Whitfield says. They talk for 47 minutes. Xavier walks her through all of it. The 23 recordings, the scout call subfolder, the 6 months of silence Tariq chose to keep. She listens without interrupting. She asks 3 questions across the entire conversation, each one exact, each one confirming something she is checking against documentation she already has in front of her. Somewhere in the 32nd minute, Xavier says Nadine's name. He doesn't plan to. It surfaces in the context of Tariq, something about the way his son moves through the world, the way he holds his timing, the way he waits for the right moment rather than the first available one. He got that from his mother, Xavier says. He stops. Sorry. Don't be, Paige says. She doesn't ask a follow-up. She doesn't fill the space with anything. She just lets it sit there, the way someone lets a moment sit when they understand its weight without needing it unpacked. Xavier notices that. He doesn't say anything about noticing it. They talk about the case for 7 more minutes. Then the call ends. Xavier stays at the kitchen table with both hands flat on the surface. He is not ready to think clearly about 47 minutes yet. But he is also not doing a good job of not thinking about it. Adayeze Okafor does not ask for permission. At 11:47 Thursday night, she posts 42 seconds of audio to her personal account. One sentence in the caption, "My son has played for this coach for 2 full seasons. This is what I finally decided to record." By 6 Friday morning, 220,000 plays. By 7:30, 4 major news accounts have reposted it with direct quotes pulled from the audio. By 8:15, Xavier's phone has 11 messages from numbers he does not recognize. He ignores all of them. He makes 2 calls, one to Broderick, one to Doris and Kemderim at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. Doris picks up before the second ring. "Already filed," she says, goes live at 9. What nobody yet understands, what the people drafting the district's emergency response don't know, is that Adayeze Okafor was not recording for 1 day. She was recording for 3 weeks. 4 separate audio files, different Tuesdays, different specific incidents, a pattern wide enough to stand on its own, before Thursday ever happened. Kwame had not told his mother about the first incident. He is 16. He handled it the way Tariq handled things, quietly, internally, with the dignity of a teenage boy who has decided he can carry it and does not want to watch the adults in his life worry. He had been managing this for 2 full seasons before his mother understood what she was seeing at the dinner table. But Adayeze Okafor did not raise her son alone in a country that was not the one she was born in, working double shifts while building a household from scratch, without learning how to read the things her child didn't say. She started recording 3 Tuesdays ago. She did not tell Kwame. She did not tell Xavier Osei. She did not call Broderick Hale or Paige Whitfield or anyone at the Tribune-Review. She posted Thursday's clip because it was the clearest, because it had the words "veteran card" in a man's voice, while a father in a military uniform was standing 6 feet away. She was tired. 2 seasons of tired. Renata Howell calls the board chair at 8:40 Friday morning. An emergency session is scheduled for Monday. The meeting is designed to function as a wall. Renata walks in with a manila folder, printed, dated, formatted with the district letterhead. 3 separate disciplinary incidents involving Tariq Osei, 2 from the current school year, 1 from last spring. She sets it on the conference table before the chair even sits down. There is context, she says, that the public does not have. 3 board members look at the document. 2 board members look at their phones. Those 2 members received Paige Whitfield's formal conduct briefing Thursday evening at 7:02 p.m. 14 pages. Behavioral pattern analysis. 16 months of documentation. They have both read it. Neither of them told Renata this before she walked in with the folder. Renata keeps talking. She is composed. She has been preparing this for 72 hours. She is saying the right things in the right order. The board chair has Paige's briefing open on a tablet in front of her. She has read it twice. She looks at the folder on the table. She looks at Renata. Then she looks at the 2 board members who aren't looking at the folder at all. "We'll need a brief recess," the board chair says. Renata Howell is not a woman who loses her composure in a public room. She picks up the document, slides it back into the folder, places her hands flat on the table. Her face stays exactly where she puts it. But the room has changed, the kind of change that happens when the evidence walking through the door is larger than the story that was built to contain it, and everyone in the space can feel the difference even before a single additional word is spoken. Outside the conference room, in the district hallway, 3 administrators stand near the water fountain. 2 have phones pressed against their ears. 1 is looking at the floor. Doris Nkemdarim's article has been live for 40 minutes. 2 national outlets have picked it up in the last half hour. Inside the conference room, the board chair comes back in and sits down. She looks at Renata's folder. She says, "We're going to need to talk about what comes next." The emergency board meeting was built to close this story before it got any larger. It just became the headline. Garrett Howell does not show up to his own resignation meeting. His attorney delivers a letter at 9:47 Tuesday morning. 2 paragraphs. The word decision appears 4 times. The phrase best interests of the program appears twice. The word wrong does not appear anywhere in the letter. The word apologize does not appear. The names Tariq Osei and Kwame Okafor do not appear. The board chair reads it once, sets it face down on the table. "Effective immediately," she says. The room is not loud. There is nothing that sounds like celebration, just the specific, heavy quiet of a thing being officially finished that should have been finished long before now. Xavier gets the text from Broderick at 10:04. 1 line, "He's out." He reads it in his car in the Creekfield High School parking lot, where Tariq is currently in second period. He sits with the phone in his hand for 2 full minutes before he calls Broderick back. The details take 3 minutes. Resignation effective immediately, athletic director on administrative leave, outside counsel retained by the district, 2 additional families on formal record in the last 72 hours. The press conference is at 2, Broderick says. "Paige is leading it. She asked if you'd be there." Xavier is quiet for a moment. "I'll be there," he says. The community meeting room at the district office seats 48 in folding chairs. By 1:50 it holds 63. Doris Nkemdarim is in the second row. Adaize Okafor stands near the left wall with Kwame beside her. Tariq sits 2 seats from Xavier, hands in his lap, eyes on the podium. Broderick speaks first. Timeline, documentation, next steps. Clean, precise, nothing added that doesn't need to be there. Then Paige steps up. She lays it out in direct language. The 16-month observation period, the 4 schools, the 2 districts, the pattern of targeting families Howell had identified as unlikely to report or resist. She names the behavioral standards the program grant required. She names the standards he violated. She names the review structure replacing him. Then she pauses. She looks down at the podium for 1 moment. This organization was built to change what happens in gymnasiums and weight rooms and hallways at 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, she says. It was built because someone believed that the young men in those rooms matter, that their families matter, that what is done to them in the name of development matters enough to document and enough to stop. She stops. Vector Reach is establishing a permanent scholarship fund for student athletes in this district. Annual, based on academic performance and character, beginning this year. She looks up. It will carry the name of the woman who made this organization possible before it had a name, before it had a grant, before it had a single funded school. A founding member of our National Advisory Board, the person who gave us our first framework for evaluating whether a youth program was actually serving young people or simply using them. 1 more pause. It will be called the Nadine Osei Memorial Award. Xavier's body goes completely still. The room makes sound he does not fully hear. Cameras, pens moving across paper, a chair scraping. None of it reaches him with its full weight, because his entire system has gone quiet around 1 sentence. Tariq reaches over and takes his father's hand. He does not say anything. He does not look at Xavier's face. He just takes the hand and holds it. Xavier stays very still. He does not trust his voice right now. He does not try it. He sits in a folding chair in a fluorescent-lit room while the cameras keep running, and a woman at a podium says his late wife's name in front of every person in the world who needed to hear it, said exactly like that. He looks at Tariq's hand over his. He keeps looking at it. He lets the moment be exactly what it is. After, in the corridor while press and attendees filter out, Xavier steps through the side door. Paige is at the far end of the hall, answering a reporter's question. She sees him over the reporter's shoulder. She finishes her answer, excuses herself, walks toward him. Xavier takes out his phone. On the screen is the gala photo from Tariq's nightstand, photographed that morning with his camera, zoomed in tight on the far left of the frame. He had finally looked at it closely the night before. Finally let his eyes move past Nadine, past the center, all the way to the left edge of the frame. He turns the screen toward Paige. She looks at the photo for one moment, then at him. "You knew," Xavier says, "from the first day, in the parking lot." "Yes. You knew this family." "Yes." A long pause. "Why didn't you say anything?" She holds his gaze. "Because that story belonged to you, not to me." Xavier looks at the phone screen for a moment. Then he puts it back in his pocket. "She would have liked you," he says. Paige is quiet for a moment. She looks at him steadily. "Thank you," she says. 2 words, placed carefully into the only space they fit. Xavier does not walk away, and neither does she. Tariq plays Friday. The gym at Creekfield is packed in the way it only gets packed when a story has moved through a town and turned a regular mid-season game into something that means more than basketball. Parents 3 rows deep along the side walls, a reporter near the scorer's table with a recorder on his knee, and up in the 4th row of the bleachers, 2 men in sport coats with clipboards resting on their knees. D1 scouts. The same program from the recording, the call where Howell used the words character stuff and coachability and better options in the class. That program's regional scout reached out to Broderick Hale on Wednesday afternoon, 2 days after the Tribune Review article ran nationally. The program's head scout flew in from out of state Thursday. Both of them cleared their Friday evening. Tariq doesn't know they're in the building until late in the second quarter, when he spots the clipboards from the free throw line. His shot goes in anyway. He plays the first quarter the way he always plays the first quarter, reading the floor, keeping the ball moving, not forcing anything. 7 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover he gets back on the very next possession personally. Then, with 6 minutes left in the second quarter, he takes a pass in transition at the right wing, drives left into the lane, and finishes through contact with his offhand while the defender's arm comes across his chest. The gym makes a sound. Xavier is on his feet before he knows he is standing. Tariq finishes the half with 13 points. He finishes the game with 19, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 blocked shot in the 4th quarter on a drive that the visiting team's best player had taken uncontested all season. The final buzzer sounds. The sound the gym makes is the kind that stays in the walls. In the corridor outside the locker room, Adaeze Okafor is waiting with a white bakery box balanced in both arms. She is tall, composed, wearing a deep green coat. She was not at the press conference Tuesday. She did not call Xavier this week. She did not announce she was coming tonight. She drove to the bakery on Millbrook Avenue Thursday afternoon and showed up to this game with her son and this box, which is simply the kind of thing Adaeze Okafor does. Kwame comes out of the locker room first and stops when he sees her. "What is that?" "Cake," she says, in the tone that mothers use when they are stating something obvious that is not really about what they are stating. She lifts the lid, white frosting, blue letters. You stayed standing. We see you. Kwame looks at the words. He looks at his mother. Something moves between them that does not need a room and does not need an audience. He steps forward and puts his arms around her, and she holds the bakery box with one arm and him with the other. Tariq comes out of the locker room behind him and stops. "Can I get some of that?" he says. "Baby," Adeze says, with complete patience. "The entire point is that everyone gets some." She looks at Xavier over both boys' heads, direct and steady, the way she looks at most things. He holds her gaze. He gives one nod. She gives one back. That is the full exchange. It is everything it needs to be and nothing more. Later, after the scouts have introduced themselves to Broderick and exchanged cards, after the cake is gone, after the last parent has pulled out of the lot, Xavier finds himself on the wooden bench outside the gym's side entrance. He does not plan to stay long. The November air is cold and clear, the kind of cold that has no moisture in it. The parking lot lights throw long shadows across the asphalt. 2 pigeons on the equipment shed roof say nothing useful to anyone. Paige Whitfield sits down at the other end of the bench. She has 2 paper cups from the concession stand inside. She sets one on the bench between them without asking. He picks it up. They sit for a minute without talking. Their shoulders are not quite touching, close enough that the space between them has its own weight in the cold air, but not touching. "You didn't know about the car," Xavier says. "When you came out to the parking lot Thursday, you didn't know he'd had it towed." "No," she says. "I came out because I wanted to see what you'd do when you found out." "What did I do?" She looks at him. "You measured the distance between your car and the fire lane with your eyes, twice. Then you took out your phone." She holds her coffee cup in both hands. "You documented before you said a single word to anyone." Xavier looks at the lot. "Nadine used to say that proof is the only language that doesn't get rewritten later," he says. She was right. A pause. "Tariq moves exactly like her," Xavier says. "Same stillness, same timing. He never acts until he has what he needs. Never moves before the floor is fully read." He turns the cup in his hands. "I watched him do it, and I thought he learned it on the court." "He learned it at home," Paige says quietly. Xavier looks at her. "We're both people who stayed," she says. "What does that mean?" "It means, when walking away would have been easier, you didn't." She looks at the parking lot. "I have been doing this work for 11 years. The people who actually change outcomes are never the ones who show up when it's already safe to show up. They're the ones who stay when it costs them something to stay." She pauses. "That's all I meant." Xavier looks at the bench between them, at the coffee cup in his hand, at the empty lot and the cold air and the lights that will go off soon. "I'm not going anywhere," he says. He means the bench. He also means something else. He is fairly certain she knows both things at once. Inside the gym behind them, Tariq Osei is zipping his bag in an empty locker room, texting his teammate, already running the game back in his head and finding what he wants to fix next week. Scouts called. Documentation submitted. A scholarship bearing his mother's name, now attached to a program that will work the way it always should have worked. He is 16. He is already thinking about what comes next. On the bench outside, 2 people sit in the cold and finish their coffee. There are things between them that have not been said yet. There will be time. What Howell never understood, what men like him never understand, is this. They judge in 3 seconds what it took a lifetime to build. The man who does not announce himself is the most dangerous kind of witness. Because everything he sees, he remembers. And everything he remembers, he documents. If this story sat with you today, if Xavier and Tariq moved something in you that needed to move, drop a comment below right now. Tell someone in your life what it brought up. Share it with the person who needs to hear it. Every story like this one is proof that quiet strength passed from a parent to a child, from one generation to the next, is the most powerful force in any room, and it never looks as small as the people trying to stop it believe it does. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story like this one. These are the stories that remind us what accountability looks like, what a father's love looks like, and what happens when ordinary people decide that what was done to them is going to mean something. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and leave us a comment below. Tell us who stayed for you when it mattered most. Because the people who stay, they change everything.